And I'm really very glad that we have David Vogelpohl with us, CMO from FastSpring. And hi, here you are.
Hey Ingo, how are you?
I'm fine. So we didn't talk about this earlier, but we come up with a similar concept for the T-shirt design. Um, so we are just in the wrong order on the screen. First, code, connect, grow your business, and then use FastSpring to sell it. Um, yeah, so the two of us, we have met just a few weeks ago the first time, but there's a relationship between FastSpring and Adobe since many, many years, and you will cover this a little bit since there's a very integrated solution with FastSpring and our Adobe Creative Cloud plugins and Adobe Exchange. But there's so much more opportunity also to integrate also for Express or with your own account. But even more important, what we hear now from you is more about how to be successful with what you do. And this is not a marketing presentation for FastSpring compared to others. This is more relevant to understand how can you make business, what are tactics that you can use, and of course, FastSpring could be a partner. With that, David, take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, Ingo. Thanks for having me here. And thank all of you for joining this session. What we're going to talk today about is optimizing your add-on business for growth. As Ingo pointed out, I'm Chief Marketing Officer of a company called FastSpring. We're a payment and subscription platform for digital product companies like add-ons, software, SaaS, and even video games. What I'm going to do today is share some of my points of view on how you optimize an add-on business for growth. I'm going to use my lessons from the School of Hard Knocks, buying and operating add-on and plugin businesses, building add-ons and plugins for other businesses, and generally working within an add-on ecosystem. You may know me from speaking at places like South by Southwest or marketing conferences like PubCon, and then also operating WordPress's #1 design framework, Genesis. And I also speak at other developer and digital product events and really like talking about growth of those businesses. So today, though, what we're talking about is being an add-on developer and how do I take an add-on developer business and drive growth at scale? And of course, add-on developers take on all kinds of different shapes and sizes. We've even heard from many of them here today. But add-on developers, and I've been every one of these types of developers in the past, but they're an advanced user of the core platform. We just heard from Michael and how he was using Adobe products and had created add-ons and plugins to fill gaps in the ecosystem. It's a global audience. We just heard from a developer from Korea, and of course, there's people in attendance here from all over the world who also have varying levels of expertise in development. We have individuals or full companies trying to make money with add-on development. And then I think Michael also pointed this out, or maybe it was Tate, but we have companies who are trying to integrate their platform with the core platform, all of them creating add-ons and plugins for ecosystems. So I do want to have a poll here to see in this audience what kind of developers we have here. Ingo, can you get the poll loaded up? I'm assuming it's you that's doing that. Maybe not. Okay. We'll roll with the punches here, but developers come in all shapes and sizes. So let's talk about how we grow an add-on business. And I want to kind of dig into some of the benefits, but also some of the challenges involved here. I think it's important to recognize this from a high level. So of course, when I operate and build add-ons, one of the key benefits is I have access to a built-in audience, often with clear needs. So I don't have to go make a product and then find an audience. Generally speaking, the audience is still there. There's a lower barrier to entry than standalone software because I get to inherit the audience and the features from the core platform to help as I make my software a plugin. And then because of that, I can deliver better functionality than on my own. And we heard Michael's examples there and some of his approaches on add-ons and how it was kind of like a peanut butter and jelly situation where Express plus his add-ons delivered a much more valuable experience for the user. Now, of course, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. There's some key challenges when operating an add-on business. Half of this gray hair are from these challenges and operating these businesses in the past. But the biggest one is, in my experience, has been product and version compatibility with the core platform. Now, if you make an iconography library, you're probably not having to worry too much about updates to Express, or if you're making plugins for like Photoshop. But the more functionality your plugin or add-on has, the more you might need to update it over time as the core platform or software evolves. Of course, a lot of things are a double-edged sword, and one of them is the community that you're joining as you make add-ons. And you need to worry about your reputation within that community. If your add-on gets some bad press, that might be something you have to deal with right away. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's a benefit, but also a challenge. Add-ons often have to deal with monetizing in multiple channels. So you might monetize in a marketplace, you might monetize on your site, you might monetize on multiple marketplaces. Traditional software companies usually monetize only on their site. And then just like a normal business, you have to worry about tax and privacy and legal compliance and all the boring business stuff that goes along with having a successful business. So these are some of the benefits and challenges, but I want to kind of dig into the optimization for growth. And specifically, where I want to start with is, well, what are the different options we have when monetizing our add-ons and plugins? The first, of course, is maybe it's free. Maybe I wanted to do something nice for the community or to build my personal or company brand. We've heard that mentioned a couple of times here today. If I'm going the paid route, I might charge a one-time fee for my add-on, or maybe I'm trying to maximize revenue and value. And so I might do a subscription or recurring revenue based, freemium models, future based. And of course, with AI, we see usage-based billing models becoming more and more popular. The other thing I might do, maybe this is something that Well Said might be thinking about, is I'm trying to integrate my platform with the core platform for the benefit of my existing users, or potentially as a way to acquire new users. And so these are all the different options you have as you're considering your add-on strategy, and sometimes you might do a little of all of them. When it comes to monetization, though, charging money, and I'm going to get into some pretty specific examples in the Adobe universe, but from the high level, when you think about charging money for your add-ons or plugins, the first option you have are the native monetization options within the add-on marketplaces. Now, Adobe gives you a ton of flexibility there. We'll do a double click there in a minute. On your website, you can choose from what are called payment service providers. These are companies like Checkout, Adyen, or Stripe. In these platforms, you also need to add in things like tax compliance and management and some other capabilities on top of it. Or you could also choose what's called a merchant of record payment provider, which is the type of payment provider FastSpring is. And so I want to walk through these a little bit so you help to understand some of the options you have for how you approach monetization with your add-ons. So merchants of record are a lot like a payment service provider, like a Stripe or a checkout.com. You can integrate it on your website. You can integrate it with your entitlement systems. There's a lot of flexibility. I'm sure you're familiar with this on some level. And so what merchants of record do on top of that is deliver a lot of marketplace-like benefits. So the way a merchant of record works is they're the entity on the transaction. So for FastSpring's customers, if you looked at your credit card statement, it might say something like FS and then the name of the product. So the user buying isn't confused, but effectively FastSpring is the one on the transaction. That means that we take on the liability for filing and paying all the taxes, and you don't ever mess with that. And so what a lot of add-on providers will do is leverage a merchant of record like FastSpring or our competitor Paddle in order to offload the complexities of global commerce. As a matter of fact, most merchants of record will also have multiple payment service providers that allow you to route payments around problems and get the best approval rates. And the other core benefit, of course, with merchants of record is you get access to those global payment methods, global currencies. It's a nice easy button for global commerce. But of course, the ultimate easy button for add-on developers are marketplaces. And Adobe does a fantastic job in managing their marketplaces and being extremely developer friendly. And I've got some really good examples of why here in a minute. I love these, the chat there going off. So of course, with a marketplace, when a transaction takes place, if you use the native monetization option, you really don't have to deal with anything, right? You're not having to deal with the transaction or tech support for the payments or anything. That's instantly offloaded. Of course, when you list your add-on for sale or to be available in the marketplace, you get instant access to that audience. I really loved hearing about Tate talk about all the different ways Adobe is surfacing the Express add-ons to users and also those enterprise users from the prior two speakers. This is a tremendous opportunity, of course, something you want to take advantage of. And then if you monetize in marketplaces, you'll often have better conversion rates than what you might get on your own website because you're inheriting some of the brand value that goes along with the core platform. So in Adobe's universe, I'm going to talk about two marketplaces. The first is the Creative Cloud marketplace for products like Photoshop and so on and so forth within the Creative Cloud suite. Getting started is super easy. There's a nice guide that you can find at this little URL /creative-cloud. You can manage your plugins at developer.adobe.com/console. You can use native no-code monetization. This is the part that FastSpring supports Adobe empowering. You can sign up for that at literal.co/monetize. And then this is the other really cool part, I think, about the Creative Cloud Marketplace is you can use your own monetization or checkout payments and subscription engine on your website and effectively link from your plugin to your website for that purchase. So unlike other marketplaces that are really restrictive with you kind of bringing your own payment engine, subscription engine, Adobe is extremely developer friendly and flexible here. But I think the biggest opportunity, and we've heard this over and over again today in the Adobe universe, is with Express. And what I want you to do after all these sessions, after you have fun connecting with folks here and listening to this advice, is go to express.adobe.com/add-ons. In there, you're going to find, it probably isn't like the official number, but around 215 add-ons. And with a platform as popular as Adobe Express, with a company as large and such a powerful brand, there's a lot more opportunity for add-ons to be created. There's holes in the feature sets of those add-ons. And we heard just a few minutes ago from the folks, I can't remember their names, who were working with the enterprise customers. And they were like, oh, we really needed this QR code and we really need this and we really need the Bitly thing. There's a lot of those opportunities there. So if you're making plugins for the Creative Cloud universe, you need to be thinking about, are there holes in the Adobe Express universe where I could be the first, get the first mover advantage and take advantage of that opportunity? So I think there's a massive opportunity there. Now, there's a bigger opportunity there, though, than the holes that you can fill, and that is in how you are able to monetize. And this, I think, is super cool. So with Adobe Express Marketplace, you effectively can bring your own payment and subscription provider to use with your add-on. You're going to be able to embed it in the sidebar, which I'll show you in a minute. And then you could also do that monetization on your website. You can use this payment and subscription provider, whoever it is, FastSpring, Stripe, one of our competitors like Paddle, whatever, for monetizing the Adobe Express add-ons and the Adobe Creative Cloud add-ons, and of course, also on your website. It does require a little bit of code, but it's not the matrix. It's not that hard to figure out. And what this gives you is very powerful options for monetizing across multiple channels, but with one single provider. So let's take a look at what some of these options look like. Now I'm going to provide some example add-ons here. I'm not picking on anybody. I think actually all of these are fantastic companies with fantastic products, and I'm providing these examples to be illustrative of good ways to go about some of these approaches. In this example, of course, we see a blank Adobe Express document on the left, and we see the UI sidebar on the right. And we see that Design Buddy has opted to have the enter the API key be the most prominent element on this sidebar. And you might make an assumption that maybe Design Buddy was thinking the majority of people that use my add-on for the first time are maybe already existing customers. Maybe Design Buddy's promoting it to their existing customers, and they assume that the majority of people who will see it for the first time already have a Design Buddy account. If we look at the very bottom next to that green heart, we see start for free. And so maybe we assume that that's the secondary CTA on this page. And that link links to their website where you can sign up for a free trial or one of these paid plans and get access to an API key in order to use the add-on. This is the opposite example from an add-on provider called Antigema. I'm sure I said that the wrong way, but they make a super cool Microsoft SharePoint plugin. And this, you can see the order is the exact opposite. The first experience assumes you're not an existing customer, and they're taking you through the process of signing up for an account, and then the enter your activation code piece is at the bottom. So you just need to think about, what am I trying to drive here? Support existing customers, or am I trying to use my add-on in the marketplace in order to acquire new customers? Michael talked about how he had both when he started building his add-ons. Adding the monetization in the UI sidebar is extremely easy. There's an index.html file if you haven't tried one of the sample projects by Adobe. What I did is I integrated FastSpring's checkout here, but you could do Stripe or whatever. In the FastSpring universe, we have something called a store builder library that has these methods that you can invoke to preset language if you wanted to, or country, or payment method, or promo code. There's a long list of them. And so you have this very, very deep flexibility in how you're monetizing directly inside the add-on experience within Express. Once your subscription or one-time payment has been made for your add-on, then you can use things like callbacks, webhooks, and APIs to deliver custom experiences post-purchase. So maybe you want to drop the user into using your add-on right away. Maybe you want to show a thank you message or present some other information. If you have an internal account system or entitlements features system, you can use webhooks and APIs to communicate to that. So that way you know that someone had successfully completed a purchase, or maybe they're on a subscription and renewing. So you're able to use all those capabilities, of course. And then leveraging those built-in subscription capabilities. And again, I'm showing you some examples from FastSpring, but payment service providers and other merchants of records will also have these kind of features built in. Once, of course, not only can you leverage, you kind of bring your own payment provider in the sidebar of your Adobe Express add-on, but of course you can use that same one on your website. Again, whether it be a payment service provider or merchant of record, and you can power the monetization on your site, but then also in the Adobe Express sidebar, and enable the same entitlements for your Creative Cloud plugins. So very, very flexible, extremely developer friendly. When you're thinking about listing your add-ons in the marketplace, and I thought Tate's presentation was fantastic, by the way, a lot of great advice here. But as I think about it, I think first off, write product names for users, but don't lose track of that SEO. Tate pointed this out. Use those keywords in the name of your product, describe what your product does. Also use them in the description. Both of those seem to help drive rankings. And as you think about that in the Adobe Express Marketplace context, show you're actively maintaining your add-on. I love the idea of adding the product examples. Make sure your website and blog are up to date. Your social media is being updated. Nothing will scare a user away more, especially those enterprise users, if they think you've abandoned the add-on. Create and maintain a robust web presence. Again, this is about trust. Add-ons and plugins that have their own website will earn greater trust than those that don't, especially with those enterprise users. And then consider dedicated websites for each brand. And a friend of mine owns this business called Automotive. They do a really excellent job at keeping their plugins and brands optimized. So check out what they're up to as a really good example of what to follow. In terms of marketing your add-ons outside of marketplaces, so obviously marketplace is the first stop. As I think about marketing it externally, use lookalike audiences in social media. So followers of Adobe or their products obviously is a good place to start. Don't be afraid of affiliate or creator marketing. It gets a bad reputation, but if you do it right, it can be a tremendous growth lever in your business, 20% or more of your revenue. My advice there is to follow the money, watch who you're paying those commissions to, and then look closely if they're actually providing value for the users, or are they, you're unsure if they're providing value. If you're ever unsure, just don't let them in the program and stick to the ones where you can clearly define the value. Link ads that you buy online to your web page so you can get a website so you can have better landing pages and better analytics. And then co-market with other add-on devs. There's a lot of people here and in the community who are looking for ways to grow their own business, trade ideas, and then kind of join forces when you can on marketing campaigns. And my last tip here is really around how to build a sellable add-on business. This was something I did a lot in a prior role, but you want to build a brand, not just products. You want to build a community, not just a company. That's something that will give you much more exponential value for your company. Subscriptions, obviously, are more valuable long-term than one-time revenue. Keep each add-on's systems and finances separate. So if you sell one add-on later, it's easier to do that than unwinding a bunch of finances and systems. That'll make your life much easier. Pay your taxes. That can affect your acquisition later. There's something called holdbacks that the acquirer could do. And use multi-channel optimization. Like the more revenue streams you have coming in, the more successful your business is going to be and the more you can command from a potential acquirer. So these are my 8 high-level strategies for thinking about add-on business growth. I hope they've been helpful for you. But my number one tip is to connect. Go to events like this, find people that are building add-ons, find opportunities to meet these folks in person. You'll get much better ideas, much better inspiration for your business. If you'd like to nerd out with me about any of this or otherwise, happy to share more of my lessons from the School of Hard Knocks. Visit literal.co/OH to sign up for office hours, and happy to go from there. Ingo, this was fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us, David. This was great.
Developers Live. Developers Live.